Skip it up and that up. First off, shout out to Pat the NES Punk over at, the YouTube channel Pat the NES Punk, and he also has the Completely Unnecessary podcast. I haven't watched your newest podcast yet, Pat, but I think that Ian's back, which that's awesome. I'm glad to see him back. I'm glad to see that he's doing well. Make sure you check out his YouTube channel. I'll have a link to it below in the description because he does really good work over there. And I actually support their Patreon. I really like the Completely Unnecessary podcast. So go check out Pat the NES Punk and go check out the Completely Unnecessary podcast. Really good podcast. For me to financially support it, that says something. But anyway, I got this story. The reason I'm giving them a shout out. I got the story from Pat. And even though it involves GameStop, it's not necessarily a gaming story. It's just such a friggin' doozy that I wanted to talk about it. So there's a GameStop in Mitchell, South Dakota. I think that's where it's from. The article is kind of vague on the location of the actual GameStop, but the manager of a Mitchell video game store was a GameStop. He actually called in to police that the store was robbed. Aaron Cooper, who was 34 years old, was a manager over at this GameStop in Mitchell, South Dakota. And he said that a man entered the store with a gun and he claimed that he took 2 bank deposits, which had around $2,000 of cash in them. Aaron Cooper also said that this gunman took his wallet and had a blue backpack and left the store with the deposits and his wallet. And he was so scared, and I'm saying that part, but he basically called him up and he was proactively trying to cover his ass. None of this fucking happened. He was trying to be like, oh yeah, well actually I robbed my own fucking store, but I'm gonna make up this elaborate story to cover my ass so no one really wants to look into it. It's kind of the whole smelt it, dealt it policy. You know, if you fart and you're like, oh man, someone farted. Oh wow, man, that stinks. You know, that's the person who's calling out the fart is probably the one who farted because they're trying to get attention away from him. That's the kind of move this guy pulled. Now you're probably wondering about the surveillance camera. Well, Aaron thought he was smart. He actually put the camera in, like, they have like those like tiled ceilings that you could push up the ceiling. They believe that Aaron put the camera in another part of the GameStop and he put it in the ceiling so no one could actually find out what happened. He thought he was smart, but there's one big catch that happened that made Aaron get into some deep shit. They actually looked at surveillance cameras from other businesses in the plaza where the GameStop is. And guess what? When they looked at those surveillance cameras, the story that Aaron told police about him getting robbed, so on and so forth, didn't hold up. And Aaron got into a world of shit. The over $1,600 in cash that was missing, GameStop receipts and keys to the GameStop store were found in a blue colored backpack in the same ceiling where he actually hid the surveillance camera. So he thought that, he was going to call in this robbery, Aaron. He thought that it was going to blow over, like, oh, it sucks, you got held up and we can't find the money. And what he thought he was going to do is in, the thick of the night when he was doing a night shift over at GameStop, he was going to sneak that backpack into his car and leave over $1,600 richer. Well, he didn't realize that there were many ways that the police could check out his story, and he got caught lying, and now he's royally screwed, and now he's going to do some jail time. He was arrested and charged with grand theft valued from $1,000 to $2,500. That's a Class 6 felony, which is punishable for up to 2 years in prison and a $4,000 fine. So basically, not only did Aaron not get away with it, but now he's actually going to have to spend more money, almost over double the money possibly, in fines, and he might go to prison for 2 years. Than the $1,600 he was trying to steal. So, was it worth it, Aaron? Let's think about this whole situation. First off, your company, Aaron, is going to know that there's something up when the surveillance camera is hidden in the ceiling, okay? People aren't stupid. The cops weren't born yesterday, and, your GameStop, I'm sure they've dealt with other shady shit like this. They're going to look into it. Like, the camera's in the ceiling. Don't you think if it was the robber that did it, what he would probably do is try to steal the fucking camera to make sure there was no footage on it, or make sure that, you weren't turning the camera back on. That's what he would have done. He wouldn't have just put it in the ceiling and left it there. So that was red flag number one. And you don't think if you work in a plaza, Aaron, you don't think there's other stores with surveillance cameras around so they could see if someone, when you talked about your story of a gunman coming in and holding you up, they would see someone walking out of the store and they would check your times of when you said this happened, so on and so forth, and see that none of it was fucking true? Like, you didn't think this through? Like, you really thought this was going to blow over and you were going to leave $1,600 richer? Seriously? And the thing that amazes me the most, not that I'm condoning at any price to rob a store, you went through all this for $1,600? I mean, I'm not saying $1,600 is not a lot of money, but that's like a rent and maybe paying your utility bill, or maybe that's why you had to do it. Maybe that's what you did it for, or it's not worth the repercussions. I just don't, and now what are you gonna do when you get out of prison, Aaron? You're gonna be a felon. What job are you gonna get? Was it worth it for $1,600? I don't know what your circumstances are. Maybe in your mind you were that financially in dire straits that it was, but it never is, because now look what's going to happen. You took this stupid risk and now your life is screwed. Yeah, okay, you may get no jail time and just a fine, or you may get probation. I don't know what your criminal record is. If you're working at GameStop, you probably didn't have one before this. But what are you going to do? You're a felon now, Aaron. And a felon in the United States can do virtually nothing. Like, I mean, you couldn't even get a job at Burger King if you wanted to. So $1,600, you tried to steal it, and now the rest of your life is ruined, period, because of it. You may get out of prison in a year, or you may serve no prison time, but your whole life is going to be a prison from here on out, because you're going to be a felon, basically, for the rest of your life. This is Rich, Review Tech USA, signing out. Have a good one.